The Galactic Empire's warning. The people of Earth lived their ordinary lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. It started on a quiet Tuesday morning when the sky above the planet darkened, not with clouds, but with the shadow of something far more terrifying. Massive alien ships, each the size of entire cities, appeared in Earth's orbit. Their dark metallic surfaces gleamed against the sunlight, their shapes sleek yet otherworldly. The ships seemed to hum, a low vibration that could be felt even by those standing on the ground. For a few moments, there was only silence. No one on Earth understood what was happening. People stopped in the streets, cars pulled over, and cameras turned to the sky. Then, a booming voice filled the air, not through any speaker but directly into the minds of every human being on the planet. "People of Earth," the voice declared, cold and commanding. "This is the Galactic Empire. Your planet is now under our jurisdiction. Surrender peacefully, and you will become part of the greatest civilization in the galaxy. Resist, and your world will face annihilation." The message repeated 3 times, each word striking fear into the hearts of millions. For the first time in human history, every country, every person, heard the same voice. Panic spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with speculation, and television channels broadcast images of the alien ships hovering above Earth like gods looking down on their creation. World leaders immediately called emergency meetings. In the heart of the United Nations building in New York City, representatives from every nation argued about what to do. Some demanded immediate surrender, convinced humanity had no chance against such advanced technology. Others, more defiant, spoke of resisting, though they knew little about the enemy's true power. General Marcus Hayes, a stern and seasoned leader of Earth's combined military forces, stood up. His voice cut through the chaos. "We cannot surrender without understanding their intentions. If we give up now, we may doom ourselves to slavery, or worse. We need time." The UN decided to send a single message to the Galactic Empire, requesting 48 hours to consider their options. The request was simple and humble, but as humanity waited for a response, fear spread like a disease. News reports showed people fleeing cities, hoarding supplies, and praying to gods they had long forgotten. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, far from the chaos of governments and news cameras, something ancient stirred deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. In an underwater research facility known only as Poseidon Station, a team of scientists monitored unusual seismic activity. The vibrations were subtle but unnatural. Dr. Elena Rivera, the station's lead scientist, stared at the readings in confusion. "This isn't tectonic movement," she said, her voice filled with concern. "It's rhythmic, almost like a signal." "What could be causing it?" her assistant asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," she replied, her eyes narrowing as she studied the data. "But whatever it is, it started when those ships arrived." Back above ground, the Galactic Empire finally responded to Earth's plea. The same cold voice echoed in the minds of every human. "You have 24 hours. After that, your decision will be irrelevant." The countdown began, and with it, a suffocating sense of dread. Military bases worldwide went into high alert. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, trying to decipher the alien technology from the few signals they could intercept. But every attempt to understand the Empire's ships ended in failure. In a secret bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, an elite team of hackers known as the Shadow Unit worked in silence, their screens filled with alien symbols. One of them, a young woman named Kara, suddenly gasped. "I think I've found something," she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and fear. "It's a transmission code. They're communicating with each other in a way we've never seen before." "What does it mean?" her team leader asked. "I don't know yet," Kara replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "But if we can crack this, we might learn how to fight back." As humanity scrambled for answers, the alien ships remained silent and motionless in orbit, their presence a constant reminder of the impossible choice Earth faced. Time was running out, and the Galactic Empire showed no sign of mercy. Then, without warning, the vibrations under the Pacific Ocean grew stronger. At Poseidon Station, alarms blared as the research team watched their equipment go haywire. Dr. Rivera's heart raced as she stared at the sonar screen. Something massive was rising from the depths, something that had been dormant for centuries. "What is that?" her assistant whispered, his face pale. "I don't know," Dr. Rivera said, her voice shaking. "But whatever it is, it's waking up." As the countdown to Earth's surrender continued, humanity stood on the brink of an uncertain future. The Galactic Empire's warning hung over them like a storm cloud, but deep beneath the ocean, a long-hidden secret was about to reveal itself. The question was simple yet terrifying. Would it be humanity's salvation or its doom? Humanity's hidden arsenal. As the 24-hour deadline loomed, humanity teetered on the edge of panic. Cities were quiet, their streets unusually empty. People huddled in their homes, watching live broadcasts of the alien ships orbiting Earth, like vultures circling prey. Yet, in the shadows, humanity's resolve began to solidify. Deep beneath the icy wastelands of Antarctica, inside an underground fortress known only to the highest ranks of Earth's leadership, Project Pandora's Strike was quietly activated. The base had no nameplate, no symbol, and no public history. It was a black site, a secret built on secrecy itself. General Marcus Hayes entered the control room, his face grim but determined. Around him, teams of scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked in synchronized chaos. Holographic displays flickered with images of Earth's satellites, weapons, and classified blueprints. "Status report," Hayes demanded, his voice cutting through the noise. A young officer saluted and replied, "Pandora's Strike is operational, sir. All assets are ready for deployment, pending your order." Hayes nodded. "Good. If the Empire thinks we're weak, they're in for a surprise." Meanwhile, in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Poseidon Station trembled as the vibrations intensified. Dr. Rivera and her team stared at their screens in awe and fear. A massive object, larger than any submarine or sea creature, slowly ascended from the abyss. Its surface shimmered with a faint bioluminescent glow, and its movements were deliberate, almost mechanical. "It's not alive," Rivera murmured, her voice barely audible. "It's a machine older than anything we've ever seen." Her assistant pointed to the sonar screen. "It's heading toward the surface. We have to warn someone." Dr. Rivera shook her head. "No. If this thing has been hidden all this time, there must be a reason. We need to understand it first." As the object neared the surface, its glow intensified, casting an eerie light through the dark waters. The vibrations stopped, replaced by a strange hum that resonated through the station. The team watched in silence as a symbol appeared on their monitors, a symbol that matched the markings on the Galactic Empire's ships. "What does this mean?" Rivera whispered, her heart pounding. Back in the skies above Earth, the Galactic Empire's envoy prepared to make its move. A smaller vessel detached from the main fleet and descended toward the planet. Its sleek design reflected the light of the sun, and its descent was smooth, calculated, and terrifying. The world watched as the alien craft landed in the heart of Geneva, Switzerland, where Earth's leaders had gathered. The craft opened, releasing a single figure. The alien ambassador stood tall, its body encased in glowing armor that pulsed with an unearthly energy. Its face was hidden behind a mask, but its presence was overwhelming. Every human in the room felt a pressure in their minds, as if the creature's very existence was too much for them to comprehend. "Humans," the envoy spoke, its voice echoing in every mind. "You cling to defiance, yet you are outmatched. Your weapons are primitive, your minds limited. Why do you resist what is inevitable?" The room fell silent. No one dared speak, but the tension was palpable. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the alien ambassador tilted its head, as if sensing something. Far beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the ancient machine from Poseidon Station powered up, its energy signature detectable even in space. "What is this?" The alien envoy hissed, its voice laced with curiosity and anger. General Hayes, watching the broadcast from Antarctica, smirked. "Looks like we're not the only ones with secrets." In Poseidon Station, the ancient machine finally breached the surface. Its true form was revealed, a colossal construct resembling a hybrid of organic and mechanical design. Towering spires rose from its core, and its surface was covered in glowing glyphs that pulsed with energy. As it emerged, the machine emitted a deep, resonant tone that echoed across the ocean. Dr. Rivera and her team watched in awe as the machine began to move, its spires shifting and rearranging like a puzzle coming to life. "It's scanning," Rivera realized. "It's scanning the planet." "For what?" her assistant asked, his voice shaking. "For threats," she replied, her eyes wide with realization. "And I think it's decided that the Empire is one." In the skies above, the Galactic Empire's fleet detected the machine's activation. Alarms blared aboard their ships as their sensors tried to analyze the unexpected development. The alien commander, a cold and calculating figure, stared at the readings in disbelief. "This world was supposed to be primitive," the commander growled. "How does it possess such technology?" The envoy on Earth received a telepathic message from the fleet. "Retreat immediately. This planet is more dangerous than anticipated." But the envoy didn't move. Instead, it turned to the human leaders and spoke with renewed interest. "Your planet hides many surprises. Perhaps you are not as primitive as we thought. But know this, the Empire does not tolerate defiance." As the envoy disappeared into its craft and returned to the fleet, General Hayes received a secure message from Poseidon Station. "You're not going to believe this, General," Dr. Rivera said, her voice trembling with excitement. "That thing, it's responding to us. And it's asking one question." Hayes leaned forward. "What question?" Rivera took a deep breath. "It's asking, who is the invader?" The part ends as the ancient machine emits a blinding pulse of energy that shoots into the sky, disrupting the Empire's ships and leaving Earth with a glimmer of hope and a weapon it barely understands. The envoy's secret. The Galactic Empire's envoy returned to its fleet, but something had changed. As the alien commander examined the strange energy readings coming from Earth, the envoy, for the first time, hesitated in its report. "This planet," the envoy transmitted telepathically to the commander, "is unlike any we have encountered. Its history, its defenses, they are beyond the limits of its technological age. There is something ancient here." The alien commander's holographic image flickered in the envoy's ship. "Are you suggesting these primitives are a threat? Their resistance is merely prolonging the inevitable." The envoy hesitated. "I suggest caution, Commander. The energy signature from their oceans, it predates even the Empire's records. Whatever it is, it could pose an unexpected challenge." The commander's face hardened. "We will handle it. Your role is complete. Return to the flagship." But the envoy, for the first time in its long service, felt an unexplainable sense of doubt. It had been on countless conquests, faced species both defiant and weak, and had seen civilizations crumble before the might of the Empire. Yet Earth felt different. Its defiance wasn't just ignorance, it was calculated. The envoy decided to act on its own, something that was considered treason within the rigid hierarchy of the Empire. Meanwhile, on Earth, the mysterious machine from the Pacific Ocean remained motionless on the surface, its towering spires gleaming under the sunlight. Governments scrambled to respond, but Poseidon Station had declared a lockdown, refusing to allow any military presence near the construct. Dr. Rivera and her team worked around the clock, analyzing its glyphs and deciphering its purpose. "It's a sentient machine," Rivera explained to her team, her voice both excited and cautious. "It's waiting for something. A signal, a command, or perhaps an answer." "An answer to what?" her assistant asked nervously. Rivera gestured to the holographic projection of the machine's core. These glyphs are not just language. They're protocols. It's testing us. The team fell silent. The implications were staggering. If the machine had the power to repel the Empire, it might also have the power to destroy Earth. Rivera knew they were walking a thin line between survival and annihilation. In Antarctica, General Hayes monitored the situation with growing unease. His top advisor entered the room, holding a classified report. "General," the advisor said, "we've intercepted a new transmission from the Empire's fleet. It's encoded, but we've partially decrypted it." Hayes leaned forward. "What does it say?" The advisor hesitated. "It's not a standard invasion protocol. They're sending data to a central hub, not about Earth, but about the machine." Hayes frowned. "So, they're not just here to conquer us. They're here because of that thing." The realization sent a chill through the room. Hayes activated the secure line to Poseidon Station. "Dr. Rivera, we need answers, fast. What exactly are we dealing with here?" Rivera's voice came through, tense but focused. "General, I need more time. But if I'm right, this machine wasn't built by humans. It wasn't built by the Empire either. It might be from something far older." Far above Earth, the envoy defied its orders and secretly descended to the planet once more, this time cloaking its ship to avoid detection. Its target was Poseidon Station. The envoy had sensed the machine's activation and felt a pull it couldn't explain, a connection to the construct that even the Empire's vast knowledge didn't account for. Landing silently near the station, the envoy entered the facility, moving unseen through the corridors. Its advanced senses allowed it to bypass security systems with ease. Finally, it reached the observation deck, where Dr. Rivera and her team were analyzing the machine. The envoy stepped out of the shadows, its towering form glowing faintly in the dim light. The humans froze, fear gripping them. "Do not fear me," the envoy said, its voice softer than before. "I come not as your enemy, but as a seeker of knowledge." Rivera, trembling but curious, stepped forward. "You're part of the Empire. Why are you here?" The envoy paused, as if searching for the right words. "Because this machine, it is not of your world. It is not of mine. It is beyond us both." The team exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to trust the alien. Rivera, however, stood her ground. "If you know something about it, tell us. We need to understand it." The envoy tilted its head, its glowing eyes studying the human scientist. "Your kind has activated it. Do you know what you've awoken?" Rivera shook her head. "We don't. That's why we're trying to learn." The envoy's voice grew heavier, almost mournful. "This is not a weapon. It is a guardian. It was placed here long before your species crawled from the oceans. Its purpose is to judge whether this world is worthy of survival." The room fell silent. Rivera's mind raced as she tried to process the implications. "And if it decides we're not?" The envoy didn't answer, but its silence was enough. Back in orbit, the Empire's fleet prepared for a direct assault. The alien commander, unaware of the envoy's actions, ordered the deployment of their most advanced weaponry. Massive drones descended toward Earth, targeting key military installations. But as they approached, the machine in the Pacific Ocean reacted. The construct's towering spires began to shift, emitting beams of light that lanced through the sky. The drones disintegrated before they could reach the surface. The machine wasn't just defending itself, it was protecting the planet. On the flagship, the commander watched in frustration. Increased power, overwhelm it. But the machine's defenses adapted with every attack, neutralizing the Empire's weapons with surgical precision. The alien fleet began to falter, and for the first time, the Empire felt the sting of defeat. Back at Poseidon Station, the envoy stood beside Dr. Rivera, watching the machine's power grow. "This world is more than I imagined," the envoy said, almost to itself. "Perhaps the Empire has underestimated you." Rivera turned to the alien. "Help us, then. If you truly believe this machine can save us, show us how to communicate with it." The envoy hesitated, torn between loyalty to the Empire and its growing respect for humanity's resilience. Finally, it nodded. "Very well. But know this, if the machine deems your species unworthy, even I cannot stop it." Earth's defiance. The clock ticked down as Earth's governments, united by fear and desperation, watched the Empire's fleet move ever closer. The alien ships hovered ominously in the sky, their presence a constant reminder of the war that had already begun. But beneath the surface of Earth, something changed. Humanity, once divided and uncertain, began to rally in a way the Galactic Empire never anticipated. News outlets flashed with stories of citizens defying the aliens in small but significant acts, refusing to bow to the Empire's commands, organizing peaceful protests, and calling for global unity. The human spirit, though battered, was not broken. In the midst of all this, General Marcus Hayes stood at the heart of the military command center, staring at a holographic map of the world. His fingers tapped nervously on the table as he watched the Empire's ships move into position. The moment of truth was coming. They had no choice but to act, or Earth would become just another conquered world in the Empire's ever-expanding empire. "We cannot afford to fail," Hayes muttered to himself. Beside him, Colonel Anna Larkin, his second-in-command, reviewed the latest data. "General, the Pandora's strike defense grid is now online. We've gained full control of the satellite network, but the Empire's ships are far more advanced than we anticipated. They've adapted quickly to our countermeasures. They're not going to give up easily." "I know," Hayes replied, his voice steady despite the tension. "But we got one thing they don't have." Larkin raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Us," Hayes said, a fierce look in his eyes. "They might be technologically superior, but they've underestimated human resilience. We don't fight to survive. We fight to win." As the Empire's fleet began its final descent toward Earth's atmosphere, the envoy, still in contact with Poseidon Station, watched the unfolding situation with growing unease. It could feel the fear and defiance radiating from the humans below. But more than that, it could sense the ancient machine's power, growing stronger with every passing hour. The envoy's doubts had solidified. Earth wasn't just another primitive world to conquer. There was something on this planet, something buried in its history, that the Empire had failed to understand. And that made Earth a dangerous place. In a secret command center aboard the flagship, the alien commander received a report from the envoy. The message was cryptic, but the meaning was clear. The machine in the Pacific wasn't just a relic. It was a force that could potentially alter the balance of power in the galaxy. "We underestimated Earth," the commander growled, pacing in front of his officers. "And that mistake will cost us dearly." The alien fleet leader's voice hardened. "Prepare for full-scale bombardment. We will wipe out their cities, their governments, their military. If they want to resist, we will break them." "But, sir," one of the officers protested, "the machine, it's still active. If we launch a full assault, we risk losing more than we gain." The commander didn't hesitate. "I will not allow a primitive species to dictate the future of the galaxy. Prepare for the attack." In the heart of Earth's military command center, Hayes received troubling news. The Empire's fleet had begun its final approach, and the first wave of assault drones was heading toward the surface. The countdown had begun, and there was no turning back. But just as he was about to give the order to activate Pandora's strike, a voice echoed through the room. "General Hayes, we have a situation." A technician, sweat dripping down his face, looked up at Hayes with panic in his eyes. "We've lost contact with Poseidon Station. Their systems have gone dark. We can't get through." Hayes froze. "What do you mean, gone dark?" The technician grimaced. "It's as if the station has been cut off from the rest of the world. No signals, no communication, nothing." The silence in the room was deafening. The last piece of humanity's hope, the ancient machine, was now unreachable. Can't we re-establish contact? Larkin asked, her voice tight with urgency. We're trying, Colonel, but without Poseidon Station's intel, we're blind. Pandora's strike might not be enough to stop the Empire. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Poseidon Station was a scene of chaos. Dr. Rivera and her team had just finished decoding the last of the machine's symbols when the station suddenly went dark. The lights flickered and then died completely. Panic rippled through the facility as alarms blared. What's happening? Rivera shouted, scrambling to the control panel. One of her technicians pointed to the main screen. The machine's energy signature had spiked. Off the charts. It was no longer simply protecting itself. It was charging up, gathering more power than anyone had ever imagined. The very ocean around it seemed to vibrate with energy. It's reacting to the Empire's fleet, Rivera murmured. It knows they're coming. But before she could say more, the entire station shook, as if a giant hand had gripped it. A deep rumble echoed through the facility, and the walls trembled. Dr. Rivera looked out the window at the machine, which was now rising further from the water. It was as if it had awakened from a long slumber and was preparing for battle. Suddenly, a new transmission crackled through the station's emergency channels. It wasn't a human voice. It was the machine itself, speaking in the same glyphs that had once glowed on its surface. The translation appeared on Rivera's screen, and she read it aloud, her voice trembling. Prepare. The invaders will be judged. Back on Earth, as the Empire's drones descended, General Hayes stood before a massive holographic display of the planet. His finger hovered over the launch command for Pandora's strike, but something in his gut told him it wasn't enough. The Empire was coming, and they were more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. But then, just as all seemed lost, a blinding light erupted from the Pacific Ocean. The machine's energy pulse shot into the sky like a beacon, a massive column of light that reached into space itself. The Empire's drones, which had been closing in on Earth's cities, faltered as they were hit by the energy blast. What the hell was that? Larkin asked, her eyes wide. I think we just found our weapon, Hayes said, a hint of a smile forming on his lips. But as the pulse of energy reached the Empire's fleet, something unexpected happened. The machines, more than just the drones, began to malfunction. The ships shook violently, their systems failing one by one. The Empire's forces, once certain of victory, were now caught off guard by the intensity of the machine's power. The Empire had underestimated Earth once more, but now they had to decide. Would they retreat in the face of this unknown power, or would they double down and risk their entire fleet? In space, the Empire's flagship commander watched in disbelief as his ships faltered. For the first time, fear crept into his mind. Full retreat. He bellowed, but his command was met with resistance. The machine had become far more than they could handle. But there was still time. Time to conquer or destroy. Time to test if Earth's defiance would lead to victory or annihilation. And as the final wave of Empire forces began to retreat, one thing was clear. Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The Empire's trap. The sudden pulse of energy from the Pacific machine had rattled the Galactic Empire, leaving its fleet vulnerable. For a brief moment, Earth had tasted the thrill of defiance and victory, yet that victory was fleeting. As the Empire's flagship commander ordered a retreat, his fleet regrouped in deep space, retreating from the planet's atmosphere to reassess. On board the flagship, the commander's thoughts were focused, calculating, and cold. The machine on Earth had proven to be an unexpected force, but the Empire was never one to admit defeat. In a secret chamber aboard the flagship, the commander met with a council of high-ranking officers. They gathered around a holographic map of Earth, still glowing with the aftershocks of the machine's energy surge. You were right to retreat, the commander said, turning to the envoy who had previously warned about the machine. But we will not make the same mistake again. Earth is now more dangerous than we thought. We will not allow this planet to become a threat to the Empire. The envoy nodded, its voice calm but laced with apprehension. The machine's purpose is unclear, but its power is undeniable. The people of Earth have awakened something ancient, something far beyond their understanding. The commander's expression hardened. That's why we'll take a different approach. The Empire has faced greater challenges than this. We will use their own strength against them. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. How do you propose we do that? One asked. We're going to trap them, the commander said, a cold smile playing at the edge of his lips. We will deceive them into thinking they have defeated us. And when they drop their guard, that is when we strike. It is the perfect strategy. On Earth, General Marcus Hayes stood on the balcony of the military command center, overlooking the quiet city below. The energy pulse from the Pacific machine had driven the Empire's fleet back, at least for now, but the victory felt hollow. The Empire had retreated, but they were not gone. We can't let our guard down, Hayes muttered, more to himself than anyone else in the room. If they've retreated, it's only temporary. They'll come back stronger. Behind him, Colonel Larkin approached, her face set in grim determination. General, we've intercepted new communications from the Empire. They've sent a distress signal to their command center. They're pulling back, but not entirely. It seems they're preparing for another offensive. Of course they are, Hayes said with a deep sigh. We're just a small setback to them. But if they want a war, they've got one. Larkin glanced at the map. We've got the Pandora's strike grid online, and the Pacific machine is helping us hold off their attacks. But they'll adjust. They'll figure out a way to bypass our defenses. We have to stay one step ahead, Hayes said, his mind racing. It's not just their ships we need to worry about. We need to understand the machine. If it can do this to their fleet, we need to unlock more of its power. But it's still a mystery. In Poseidon Station, Dr. Rivera and her team had been working around the clock to decode the machine's glyphs. The power it had unleashed had thrown everything into chaos, and now they faced a difficult choice. The machine's energy signature was unstable, its purpose unclear, and every test they ran seemed to yield more questions than answers. Rivera pored over the latest data, her eyes bloodshot and tired. We need to understand why it reacted the way it did. It seems to respond to threats, but it also adapts, almost like it's learning. Her assistant, now more anxious than before, stepped forward. Dr. Rivera, there's something else. A new signal is coming from the machine. It's not like the previous ones. It's more direct. The screen flickered, and a new pattern appeared, sharp, rhythmic pulses of light cascading across the glyphs. It was as if the machine was sending a message, but this one wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. What does this mean? Rivera whispered. Could it be responding to us? Before she could answer her own question, a low hum filled the station. The walls vibrated with a sense of growing power, and the machine's pulse grew louder, more insistent. Rivera felt a chill creep down her spine. The signal was no longer just a beacon. It was a call. Back in space, the Empire's flagship commander prepared to execute his plan. The trap was set. He had studied Earth's reaction to the retreat, analyzing every move, every signal that was intercepted. The humans believed they had won, that they had driven the Empire off. But the commander knew better. The Empire would not retreat in defeat. Instead, they would strike when humanity's defenses were at their weakest, when they thought the worst was over. The fleet would remain in the shadows, hidden in deep space, while smaller, more agile strike ships would slip past Earth's radar undetected. They would wait until the perfect moment to deploy a new weapon, one that would test the limits of the Pacific machine's power and shatter humanity's hope. Prepare for the final phase, the commander said. This time, we will not underestimate them. We will destroy Earth's defenses, and then we will take the planet. Back on Earth, General Hayes and Colonel Larkin discussed their next steps, unaware of the silent preparations unfolding in deep space. Humanity, for the first time, had gained an upper hand in the war, but it was a fragile upper hand. We're winning, But not by much, Hayes said. We need more intelligence on their tactics. We need to find out exactly what they're planning. Larkin's face was grim. I don't trust their retreat. They've got something in the works, something we're not prepared for. And the machine, it's reacting, but we don't understand how to control it yet. We will, Hayes said firmly. We have to. Just then, the warning alarms went off. General, we've got incoming, shouted an officer. Hayes sprinted to the command console, his mind racing. How many ships? Not many. Small craft, but they're coming in fast. It's too late to evacuate the cities. Hayes clenched his fists. The trap had already been sprung. The Empire was no longer retreating. They were closing in. In Poseidon Station, Dr. Rivera's team watched in horror as the machine's pulse intensified, but it was not a pulse of defense. It was a pulse of awareness, like the machine had sensed the incoming strike. And just like that, a low rumble began to vibrate through the station again. It's responding, Rivera said, her voice filled with both awe and fear. But to what? The Empire isn't done yet. They're preparing something, and it's coming for us. As the machine's hum grew louder, so did the dread on Earth's surface. It was a race against time. Would the Pacific machine protect Earth once again, or had the Empire devised a plan to end it all? The battle was about to escalate. Only this time, Earth's defenses might not be enough. The rise of humanity's secret weapon. The Empire's strike ships descended toward Earth, cloaked in the blackness of deep space. They were fast, agile, and armed with weapons that had shattered entire planets in mere moments. The world's radar systems were insufficient to detect such stealth technology. Humanity was blind to the impending assault. Even Pandora's strike, Earth's only defense against the Empire's overwhelming might, could not protect them from the unseen, silent ships on the way. In the command center, General Hayes stood frozen in front of a digital display that showed the incoming attack. The radar had finally picked up the ships, but it was too late. Earth's main cities were now vulnerable. The Empire was closing in. We've lost the upper hand, Hayes muttered to himself. They've done it again. Colonel Larkin, standing by his side, clenched her fists. General, the machines on Earth's surface, Poseidon Station, have reported an energy surge. It's connected to the Pacific machine. It's not just sitting idle. Hayes turned to face her, his eyes narrowing. What does that mean? The Pacific machines already defended us once. What could it be planning this time? I don't know, sir, Larkin replied, her voice tense. But whatever it is, we need to act fast. Back at Poseidon Station, Dr. Rivera and her team were scrambling to understand the new energy readings. The machine in the Pacific had gone from a passive defense system to something far more active, as if it was anticipating the Empire's next move. The hum had intensified, vibrating throughout the entire ocean floor. This is it, Rivera said, staring at the flickering data. The machine is no longer just defending Earth. It's preparing to act, to strike back. One of the technicians tapped a few commands into the console. Dr. Rivera, the energy levels are off the charts. The machine is aligning itself. It's as if it's targeting something. What is it targeting? Rivera whispered, her voice barely audible. As if in answer, a loud, rumbling noise reverberated through the station's walls. The lights flickered and then stabilized, but the ground beneath them seemed to shake with growing intensity. The Pacific machine, massive and unknowable, was on the move. We need to hurry, Rivera said urgently. If we don't figure this out soon, it may be too late. The Empire's ships made their final approach. Even cloaked in stealth, the Empire's fleet couldn't remain unseen for long. The stealth technology was advanced, but nothing on Earth could block the energy pulses now emanating from Poseidon Station. The cloak flickered briefly, just long enough for Earth's military to react. The countdown had begun. General, they're coming in hot, one of the radar operators yelled. 5 ships, unmarked, Speed's too fast for anything we've seen before. Activate the full Pandora's strike grid, Hayes ordered, slamming his fist against the table. We don't have time to hold back. Larkin hurriedly typed commands into the system. All systems are online. Firing range optimized. But General, the Empire's ships, their speed. We can't guarantee a hit. We have no choice, Hayes said, his jaw set. Fire. Pandora's strike unleashed its full force. Satellite-based lasers, EMP pulses, and shockwave blasts all simultaneously targeting the approaching fleet. A wave of energy pulsed through the sky, tearing at the fabric of space itself. Yet, to their horror, the Empire's ships dodged, their cloaking abilities rendering most of Earth's retaliation ineffective. We're outmatched, Larkin said, her voice thick with frustration. They're moving faster than we can react. But just as the situation seemed hopeless, the Pacific machine responded. Its vast form shifted beneath the ocean, towering like a giant rising from the depths. The entire ocean surface above the machine rippled violently, and a massive beam of light shot up toward the sky, visible from every corner of the globe. It cut through the air, slicing through the stealth fields of the Empire's ships with ease. The cloaks faltered, shimmering before disappearing completely. The Empire's ships were no longer invisible. Impossible. The commander of the Empire's fleet screamed, his eyes wide in disbelief. What kind of power is this? The Empire's ships, no longer shielded by their stealth tech, became sitting ducks in the skies above Earth. The Pacific machine's beams split the air with deadly precision, and one by one, the ships were blasted into oblivion. Hold your position, the commander ordered, but the damage was already done. The Empire's once imposing fleet was quickly falling apart. As ship after ship exploded in the air, the remaining forces scrambled to regroup, but it was clear they were losing. The machine had done what Earth's military could not. Back in the command center, Hayes stared at the display, his mind racing. It worked, he whispered, disbelief and awe mixing in his voice. The Empire was retreating. But Larkin, still staring at the screen, looked up with a troubled expression. General, we may have won the battle, but this isn't over. There's something more. Hayes frowned. What do you mean? Larkin's eyes narrowed. We've only dealt with a small part of the Empire's fleet. This was their front line, but they have more, much more. And now, they know what we're capable of. The Empire will return with everything they've got. Back at Poseidon Station, Dr. Rivera watched in silence as the machine continued to pulse, its energy levels stabilizing after the battle. It had defended Earth, but at what cost? The power it had unleashed had affected the station's own systems, triggering unanticipated changes in the environment. Rivera's team scrambled to analyze the aftermath. It's as if the machine's energy output has increased, one of the scientists reported. It's feeding off the aggression of the Empire, like it was designed to react to threats. That's exactly it, Rivera said, her voice rising with realization. The machine wasn't built to defend Earth. It was built to defend the planet from invaders. It reacts to the presence of external threats, amplifying its power in response. And now that it has tasted victory, it will only grow stronger. But what does that mean for us? One of the technicians asked, his voice nervous. If it gets too strong, it cold. Rivera held up a hand to silence him. We don't know yet. We can't predict what this will do, but we have to be ready. The machine might have protected us now, but we need to learn how to control it, or it might turn against us. On Earth, as the remaining Empire ships retreated into the black void of space, Hayes looked up at the sky with a mix of triumph and trepidation. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Empire had only just begun to understand the full extent of Earth's potential. And as the Pacific machine's energy pulse began to fade, one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer helpless. They had a secret weapon, And now the Empire would learn that Earth's greatest strength wasn't just in their technology or their resolve. It was in their ability to adapt, to evolve, and to rise against all odds. But how much longer could they maintain control over the force they had unleashed? The question lingered in the air, heavy and uncertain. Humanity strikes back. The skies above Earth had settled, the remnants of the Empire's failed attack still burning bright in the distance. The Pacific Machine, a force more ancient and powerful than anything humanity had ever known, now stood silent once again, its pulse of energy fading to an eerie calm. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Earth's victory felt tenuous, as though it was a fragile glass vase teetering on the edge of a cliff, its survival hanging by a thread. General Marcus Hayes stood in front of the holographic map of the planet, staring at the scattered remnants of the Empire's fleet in orbit. The human race had taken a monumental step, but the Empire would return. That much was certain. "We've won this round, but the Empire will regroup," Hayes muttered, his voice full of determination. "They'll come back, and when they do, we need to be ready." Colonel Larkin approached, her eyes focused and sharp. "General, our forces are stretched thin. Pandora's strike is our last line of defense, but it can't hold forever. The Empire's resources are vast. We need more allies. We need something beyond our own military." Hayes nodded, his thoughts racing. "We've been alone too long. It's time to change that." On the edge of the galaxy, the Galactic Empire's command center swirled in chaos. The Empire's fleet had been defeated in a way they hadn't anticipated. The Pacific Machine's response had shattered their confidence. Yet, in the deepest chambers of their war room, something more dangerous than their previous arrogance began to take shape. The Empire's highest council convened in secret, their leaders cloaked in darkness. The commander who had led the failed invasion stood at the center, bowing before the council's shadowy figures. "You failed," one of the council members intoned, his voice a cold whisper that seemed to reverberate through the room. "We underestimated them," the commander replied, his voice steady despite his shame. "But Earth is not invincible. We can still crush them." Another council member leaned forward. "There is something different about this world. The machine," it responded as though it had been waiting for us to show up. "It's far more than a weapon. It's a signal, something alive, something ancient." "And the humans?" the first council member asked. "What of their resistance?" "They believe they've won," the commander said, his voice now tinged with bitterness. "But they don't know what they've truly awakened. This machine isn't just protecting Earth. It's a beacon, a call to something far greater." The council members exchanged a glance, their eyes cold and calculating. "Then we will answer that call," one of them said, his voice calm but chilling. "The Empire has many enemies. If we cannot defeat this machine with brute force, we will find another way. We will use the very thing that humanity relies on, their hope." On Earth, the survivors of the Empire's first attack began to rebuild. The global economy had been severely disrupted, but humanity had endured worse. Cities were rising from the ashes, and the global community was more unified than it had been in centuries. There was a sense of optimism, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the war was far from over. Dr. Elena Rivera, standing in the control center of Poseidon Station, had just received a strange transmission. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from any known galactic species. It was a signal, distant, faint, but growing stronger by the second. "General, you need to see this," Rivera said, turning to Hayes, who had arrived at the station to oversee the next phase of Earth's defense. Hayes stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he read the data. "What is it?" "Another signal from the Empire." Rivera shook her head. "No, this is something else. It's not human. But it's coming from deep within the galaxy, past the Empire's borders, and it's heading straight for Earth." The word sent a ripple of tension through the room. "What does it mean?" Larkin asked, her voice edged with concern. "I don't know," Rivera replied, her voice trembling. But whatever it is, it's moving fast. And I don't think it's friendly. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the Empire, the commander of the galactic forces watched the transmission from his command deck. The signal was clear now, stronger, almost as if it were calling to something or someone. "This isn't just a machine," the commander muttered under his breath. "It's an invitation." The Empire's War Council had made a decision. If they could not conquer Earth through their own strength, they would bring forth a force that humanity could never hope to fight. A force far older and far more deadly than the Galactic Empire itself. The Empire had one final trump card: the Black Legion, an ancient race of conquerors, known throughout the galaxy for their relentless pursuit of power. They had been locked away in the Empire's deepest vaults for centuries, but now they were being released. "We will call upon the Legion," the commander said, his voice hard as stone. "And Earth will learn the true meaning of invasion." In the skies above Earth, the first signs of the Black Legion's approach began to manifest. The signal that had been faint moments before now blazed with intensity, a wave of dark energy that twisted and warped space around it. Earth's satellites began to pick up strange gravitational anomalies. "General, we have incoming," Larkin said, pointing to the screen. "This isn't just a fleet. This is something else." Hayes stared at the screen, feeling a knot form in his stomach. He knew this moment was coming, but he hadn't expected it so soon. The machine had reacted to the Empire's fleet, but this was something even more dangerous. "This isn't just a war anymore," Hayes said quietly. "It's a test of everything we've ever believed in." At Poseidon Station, Rivera and her team worked furiously, trying to understand the origin of the Black Legion's signal. The machine's energy had flared once again, but this time it was different. It wasn't just a defensive mechanism. It was preparing for something, its energy coursing through the ocean like a living entity. "The machine's resonating with the signal," Rivera said, her fingers flying across the keys. "It's not just responding to an attack. It's trying to communicate with something out there." "The Black Legion," Larkin suggested, her voice full of disbelief. Rivera nodded. "The machine doesn't just protect Earth. It's trying to prevent something worse. But I don't think it can do it alone." "Then we'll help it," Hayes said, his voice full of resolve. "If the Legion is coming, we'll make sure Earth is ready." As the first waves of the Black Legion's fleet emerged from the rift in space, their ships like colossal shadowed phantoms, the machine beneath the Pacific roared to life once again. This time, it wasn't just a defense, it was an offense. The energy blasts that surged from the depths were brighter, more violent, and more focused than anything seen before. The Earth's response was unified. Every last resource, every piece of technology, every human was now a part of the fight. The Black Legion had arrived, but they had underestimated one thing: humanity. The battle had begun, and this time, Earth wasn't just defending, it was striking back.